G'day guys, everyone watching and everyone watching after the fact. Welcome to another Malts with Mates, where we have someone special from the world of whiskey each and every Tuesday and Friday. My guest today is Hugh Barron, the sales manager for James Eadie. Hugh, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. How you been? As I said earlier, it's taken us a while to get to this situation. We were booked in to do this about 2 months ago, and I think you had a dodgy car.
Yeah, no, to make things lovely for people at home. Yeah, we were meant to have this. You were meant to be like my fourth guest or something. I had a
Yeah.
really bad curry.
Mm.
And then I think we rescheduled and you couldn't make it and then we
Yeah.
rescheduled again. So all of
Yeah.
today I was like, can I eat this? Is this gonna be a
Yeah.
curse when we're never
Yeah.
allowed?
You had a dodgy curry, then I had a dodgy curry, and then I
Uh,
had a day. Just drank water
funny.
to make it to the show. But no, it's
So
great. Yeah, thanks very much for having me. Looking
no,
forward to it.
thank you for coming on. Can you tell us what you're drinking today?
Uh, because it's a Tuesday and it's just gone 5 o'clock, I'm only drinking water at the moment. I do have some. I could go and get some whiskey actually. Um, Let me just. Here we are. I've got our trademark X.
Nice one. I'm loving the white short shorts, by the way. They're
Yeah,
fantastic.
white shorts. This is my work kit. Obviously, if I was in the office, I wouldn't be allowed to wear this. Lucky I wasn't in my boxers because that would have been a bit awkward.
It would
uh,
have been a good laugh.
yeah. But yeah, so I've got I'll have a little drop of the trademark X, which is sort of the James Eadie, where James Eadie all started from, which is
Yeah.
absolutely lovely. It's good for a Tuesday evening.
It's
And what about
weird when you say Tuesday, because in my mind I actually thought it was Friday.
is it
So
Tuesday?
yeah, we're around the corner. Oh no, it
Oh
is
yeah,
Tuesday today. It is
it is.
Tuesday.
So we usually do these on Fridays, but it's Tuesday. Mm.
Ah,
Yeah. What are you having? You on something? You got a nice glass there.
well, I ordered myself a bottle of James Eadie, and then it took an extra day to get to where I was staying in the UK. By the
Mm.
time that had happened, I had actually come out to Belgium, and I had no way to send it out because I've tried getting whiskey deliveries to this flat where I am before, and it
Mm.
does not work. They never
Yeah.
arrive. So I was meant to have a James Eadie whiskey. I'm very sorry about that.
No, that's
I
all right.
actually just have. Well, I've got some new make spirit from a German distillery because
Oh.
Tuesday is bin day, so I'm finishing about 4 or 5 different bottles of whiskey.
I see. Get them out.
Oh yeah,
I'm
got
in
to
the
get
bit.
that.
Yeah. Is it a good new make? Promising new make, the German new make?
It actually is. So these guys, yeah, I've been following them for a while. They've got whiskey on the market, but they keep their new make on the market as well because it's quite popular for cocktails, and
Mm.
a lot of gin drinkers do like it with some tonic. But I think the new make's great. I think the whiskey's great. It's Thousand Mountains. If anyone is, yeah. But
Oh, that's nonsense.
this is not a chat about Thousand Mountains.
No,
This is a
it's about
chat with,
James Eadie.
with
I'm
Hugh
not very good
Barron,
at my job.
James
I'm
Eadie.
not selling James Eadie here. Mm.
So, what can you tell us about James Eadie?
Cool, yeah. So it all started in 1854 when James Eadie set up his own brewery at the age of 24. He's a Scotsman from Blackford, so any golfers out there will know that is near Gleneagles. Um, and so he actually left home at the age of 14 to go and blend tea with his uncle down in Staffordshire. And then 10 years later, he decided he wanted to start a brewery. So I don't know how he made that jump from blending tea to brewing beer. Then he moved to Burton, started off his brewery, and then he sort of created a 295 pub empire, and then within within all those pubs, he sold his James Eadie Trademark X, which is the one just got here, and so he trademarked it in 1877. So it was basically the family blend from Blackford, which he was the youngest of 14 kids, so they all probably drunk it with his dad. And then Dad sort of passed it on to him, and then he put it into those pubs, trademarked it. So trademarked in 1877, the reason why it's called Trademark X is because his brewery was on Cross Street in Burton. So the X is obviously a cross. And then it's sort of, the family sold it to Bass in 1933. And then Bass stopped producing the whiskey in 1948. And then it just lay dormant. And then his great-great-grandson, my boss Rupert, has revived it. So he basically came across his ledgers. So, I mean, James was a sort of very organised man, sort of modern day Excel. His ledgers look like they're beautifully printed. And in there, he had all the whiskies that he used for his blend. And so from there, I think originally there was about 17 to 19 distilleries they used. And we've managed to revive it with 14 of the originals. And two of those in the blend now, Canvas and Littlewell, have been closed. So Rupert sort of went around the industry, told the family story, and then teamed up with Norman Matheson, who used to be a master blender of White Mackay. And he had the story, so that's absolutely brilliant. And he went about reblending it, really. So the amazing story is, quite a funny story, is sort of Rupert's uncle remembers sort of the brewery, and Rupert's mother remembers sort of living up there, because I think their father, so Rupert's grandfather, sold the company. So they sort of have a hazy memory of this, and so Rupert sort of knew about the beer, and he's worked in the whiskey industry for 30 years. So he started at McLeod's, then went to Beam, and then went to Diageo. So he knows the whiskey industry, and it's sort of, he knew the family had beer, but then I think his uncle sort of said, I think we used to do whiskey. I think James Eadie used to do whiskey. So Rupert got very excited, and that's why he went to Burton. That's where he found the ledgers, and then he was running around, and I think one day he's like, God, I wish I could try some of the old Trademark X, to his uncle. His uncle turned around and was like, I've got 6 of them in the cellar. So then he goes down. So Rupert's been on this sort of crusade across, the UK, looking for his ancestors' whiskey, and then his uncle's just got sort of 6 bottles in the cellar. So then they crack that one open, and then that's where we got the flavour profile. So if you try the Trademark X, it's a lovely balance of sort of sweet and smoky, floral as well, and that all came from the 1946 bottles. So I've managed to try a sample of that bottle as well. So it's sort of the initiation of getting hired by James Eadie. Rupert was on, here you go, this is the original one. So I've tried that, and that's absolutely delicious. But if you go on our website, the whole there's a video of sort of Rupert's journey into recreating the blend. And then we also do single malts, so we're also a bottler. So we bottle single malts and single grains. So that is, that's split up into 3 ranges. That's split up into our small batch, which is where we take 2 to 4 casks from one distillery. And that's all about distillery character. So they their bottle at 46%, tend to be refill and first of all bourbon casks. And of the lesser known distilleries, so Linkwood, and we've got a lovely Coalila. We've done sort of the ones that you can't really get your hands on, and those are sort of bread and butter. It's absolutely delicious, sort of bang for buck, retail for £35 to £45. Absolutely lovely, drinkable and shareable drams. And then we do single cask. So obviously when we come across a cask that we think is amazing, we put it into the bottle. So we just did an amazing Linkwood 11-year-old in a recharged hogshead. So something that we hadn't really come across. And then going back to the ledgers, we do the cask finishing range. So the cask finishes is where we sort of put whiskey, or usually single cask whiskey, into different types of wood casks. So and that all links back to James Eadie's ledger. So not only did he tell us what distillery he used, he also told us what wood he used to mature his whiskey in. So he used Malaga, Masala, basically anything he could get his hands on. I mean, it's a classic Victorian story of something lying on the road, they chuck it in. So so we're only allowed to use wood like that. So we've used Paolo Cortado, Amontillado, Sherry, PX, and Oloroso. And then we got a few brandy whiskies maturing brandy now, Malaga, and then Madeira. He was actually a big fan of Madeira. But the most surprising thing that we found was he loved grain whiskey, obviously being a blender. He absolutely loved Cameron Bridge, or Brig, however you say it. And we found that he matured his Cameron Brig in Masala cask. So this year at the Fife Whisky Festival, we released Cameron Brig 22-year-old finished in Masala cask for a year. And that's exclusive to Luvian. So it's really nice because sort of I think he was great friends with sort of the people who own Cameron Brig back in the day, and they're obviously based in Fife. So we thought we wanted to release the Fife, at the Fife Whisky Festival, this sort of Fife whiskey in this weird and wonderful cask. So it's an amazing, that's been an amazing journey. So just linking everything back to the ledgers, I always say, as a company, we haven't done anything new. We haven't changed anything. We've just literally taken his ledgers and just moved it into the 21st century. So we're basically copycats. We do this for plagiarism, but luckily it's one of his sort of family members. Yeah, and it's just an amazing. I mean, he was a very, very clever and sort of hard-working man. We just set up your own brewery at 24, and then he did extremely well. And there's some of the stories. So you just pick up little snippets of it. I mean, I think his business partner died when they were 28, but he kept on going. So it's an amazing sort of brand to work for and company to work for because it's sort of steeped in all this history. And it's just been. I've been working there for 2.5 years now, as it's my first job out of uni. So it's been. Rupert just took a punt, and I'm still here. But it's been great. It's been great. Yeah.
That's fantastic. No, yeah. That is absolutely bloody stunning.
Yeah.
The story behind the bottler and you being able to work for them. I guess like, when you mention all those different styles of cask, the first thing that pops into my mind is, do you have a favorite, like of the range, or do you have a favorite cask nowadays now that you're able to explore all these different whiskies?
Yeah, that is a very good question. I mean, one of the favorite casks that we like to use, well, I personally, because there's three of us. There's so myself, I'm the sales manager. Leon, who's sort of the brand director, so he was the first person Rupert hired, and he's the one who looks after everything before it gets into the bottle. So he knows what casks we have and what whiskies are going on, and then obviously Rupert. So Leon's sort of the keeper of keys of the warehouse, and one that we were really interested in that he used was Palo Cortado sherry, which is, for people who may not know, Palo Cortado is sort of made by accident. So I think it's on its way to being a PX, and then it breaks down and it sort of starts oxidizing. So it's made by accident, and so it's sort of this nutty, slightly sweet but not as sweet as PX sherry. And Rupert used to work a lot with Lefroy because he worked at Beam, so he loves Isla whiskies. So Isla whiskies are sort of his favourite. So, and he also believes in refill bourbon casks and versatile bourbon casks. He's not really a sherry man. Sherry cask whiskey man, but Leon had this idea of doing a Colila and a Palo Cortado, and we bought it to Rupert, and I was immediately in, and I was like, I like sherry, I love Isla. Palo Cortado is interesting. It's not as powerful as the PX, so it won't sort of take it away. But Rupert was sort of adamant that we weren't going to do it, and eventually Leon got his way. And then when we bottled it, it was just absolutely amazing because it doesn't have that syrupy flavour. So that was the biggest surprise. But we always say, I mean, even with the Cameron Brig that we just finished in Masala, when we got some Amontillado, we did Liquid and Amontillado as well, which is absolutely amazing. It's potluck in the sense that we have an idea, so we sit down and we go, well, we think this distillery will go really well with this because historically, Blair Atholl, for instance, tends to go well with sherry casks, so we could put it into a sherry cask. And luckily, there hasn't been any howlers. There hasn't been one who was like, oh no, that didn't work, and then suddenly we're sitting there with a cask, being like, oh no. So Palo Cortado is very interesting. I thought the Madeira casks were great because again, Madeira is a fascinating island. So it's a small island off Portugal, which has its sort of own climate. So it's 4 different regions, and each region have different Madeiras. So not only has it sort of my eyes up to sort of cask finishing, just to sort of other sort of fortified wines and how they're made, and then obviously Marsala is made in Sicily. So it's all these different sort of places, and I'm sort of combining it with Scotch. It's been great. So yeah, to answer your question, I think Palo Cortado, especially with Coley, is amazing. And actually, our Ben Riach, we finished in the Palo Cortado, has been great. But the most amazing thing is if you know, people go onto our Instagram account, you'll see we are just sampling for the 2020 release. And so last year in autumn 2019, so we released in autumn and September and March. And last September we released a Ben Riach and a Manickmore, which were completely pitch black. I mean, they're sort of real sherry bombs. And I remember when we got those out, so we sample every 3 months, and we got those out of the cask, and we thought we could sell it back to the bodega because it was literally, it looked like sherry, but they came out really well balanced. So so that was a really big surprise. So we sort of just put it in, and then 5 months later it was this colour. And then if you go on our Instagram, you'll see that Rupert's sampling. We've just sampled our 45 cask samples, and there's some amazing colours now. So yeah, it's just great. It's just amazing because, as I said, we sample every 3 months, and then you sort of see the development of this. So we've had some that we've tasted go, oh, it's far too early to bottle. And then, you know, a year later, we taste them again. Obviously, throughout the 3 months, you just see it mature and get better with time. And you can really see the activation, the cask activation there, which is definitely the most enjoyable part of my job, to sort of see that process. But it's an amazing thing to be involved with. And now, because of the success of Coley and Palo Cortado, Rupert's a bit more open about finishing Isla and sherry, which is always a nice win. But have you tried any of our cask finishes?
I've not managed to try any of the cask finishes. Now, I will explain myself there. I tried a lot of the range when I used to live in Scotland, but then when I moved over to Ireland, I couldn't get them because no one wants to ship whiskey to Ireland. Yeah. But now that I'm heading back to the UK again soon, whatever, I will be trying a lot of them because I love an independent bottler. I love the grain whiskies you put out. I had a couple of your older grains, and I think they're bloody stunning. So I'm trying that. And Simon, the whiskey novice, has actually just commented right before you spoke about it, and he's saying that PX Manickmore was the one. So I think he's. I think you've got a fan there in Simon.
Good.
He's an interesting fella. As long as you don't insult him, I think you're all good.
Yeah, I know. Luckily, I don't think I'll be in my job for too long if I went around insulting our sort of customers. No one, James Eadie.
You can do it on here. It's all fine.
Everyone it's all fine. It's all fun and games here.
This is a safe zone to say what you want.
Social media is so relaxed. You know, you don't get anyone sort of hating on people on media. It's absolutely
no fun. One on social media has ever been rude to their customers. That's never.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm just going to tell them because I think the sun's completely disappeared here. There we are. But yeah, it's been a great ride. So I started off at the whisky shop in Oxford. So I went to Oxford Brookes Uni, and then I sort of. That's what I started thinking, you know, when you're at uni and you get to sort of 20, 21, 22 and you go, well, you know, I'm not going to be at university for the rest of my life, sadly. So sort of that's when I started thinking about it. And then luckily there was the whisky shop in Oxford. And my sister works in gin. So I did work experience for sips of gin. And I absolutely loved it. And my brother works in the city, so the work experience for him, and I didn't enjoy that. So I was like, well, the alcohol industry is the right way to go. And then sort of going into the whisky shop in Oxford, and luckily, you know, Christmas is always a busy time, so they got me in for that. And that's where I started learning. And before, you know, it's amazing. So before I thought blends were awful, you know, I was a complete malt snob. I was like, single malts are the best. Blends are awful. Why do you want to drink a blend? Basically, people, you know, what people say to me about the Trademark X is what I used to say about it. So I sort of have that sort of background. And then, you know, I didn't even know that I didn't even know that we finished or even matured whiskey and sherry barrels. I just thought they were sort of refill bourbons. Well, not even that. I thought they were oak cask. So to sort of come from that and then sort of being involved in James Eadie, it's been amazing. I remember the first time I tried James Eadie. So I had a massive beard. So I stayed on to the whiskey shop for 6 months after I graduated from uni. And that's why I thought, well, if I'm going to grow like a massive beard, this is the time to do it, because I've got a job in a shop, and basically like Diageo and Grant's not going to be hiring again for another year, so just go and learn. Because I didn't really know how the whiskey industry worked. I never heard of independent bottlers before I started working in the shop. So then when I eventually got a meeting with Rupert, I don't know, I think it was my friend's dad's cousin is an Eadie. So he thought he was setting up James Eadie, but then, so I emailed my friend's dad's cousin, or friend's dad's mate, and he goes, well, it's not me, it's my cousin Rupert. So then I was like, okay, so it's my friend's dad's mate's cousin. I was like, hi, I'm just looking, and all I wanted was, I'm just looking to get into the industry. Can I come and have a chat and sort of get to know what the industry's like? Or am I doing it wrong? Do I need to, go and work in a distillery? And, how do you get into it? Anyway, I sat down with Rupert, and then he said, oh, by the way, there's a sales role going. I was, oh, that's great, There I was with this massive beard, being like, oh, God, I should have shaved before this. And then he said, well, you come back. I was like, oh, don't worry, I'll shave the beard when I come back from my second round interview. Anyway, a week later, I just come back and I've still got this beard. I was like, well, it worked for me so far, so I'm just going to keep it. And then I was looking at a photo, and then there was James Eadie with his beard. I was like, oh, God, I slightly look a bit like him. So I think, Rupert, for sort of marketing tools, Rupert's trying to get me to grow my beard out again and then wear a top hat, like they did in Victorian times. But he then said, come and try the Trademark X. And at this point, I was still living at home. My parents wanted me out of the house. I wanted to be out of the house. I didn't like blends. As I said, I was like, oh, God, it's a blend. So when he poured me the glass, I was like, whatever you do, just say yes. It doesn't matter what it tastes like. You just, you want this job. And it was also based in London. So, all my friends had moved to London at the point. And then when I tried the blend, it just blew my mind, because suddenly, for the first time, I used to nip my dad's Lagavulin, or, I have a Lefroy's, and it's basically all smoke. And it was the first time I tried a whiskey where I got the sweetness, and then the smoke arrived at the end. So that just blew my mind, and then that opened up another chapter, be like, oh, what's blending, and then you go down there. So I was also lucky enough to go and do the Edinburgh Whisky Academy, which taught me more about blending. So, the sort of world of blending, coming from a whiskey novice, of not knowing what the blending was, so then suddenly realising how important it has been throughout the sort of life of whiskey, and then representing one of the first ever trademarks is sort of a quick turnaround to refusing to sell people blends. But you don't want to buy that. You want to buy this thing we want here. So yeah, I've sort of been properly converted, which is good. And then now my job is to try and convert other people, because every time people try Trademark X, they go, oh, it's good for a blend. And you go, is it good for a whiskey? It's always blends have their sort of own category. And it's like, well, no, is it a good whiskey rather than is it a good blend?
I have the same thing. Whenever anyone says that's good for a blend, that's the most annoying thing you said, because I guarantee if I had given you this blind, you would have said it's a fantastic single, because let's be honest, it's a marketing thing, all right? So
yeah, exactly. And the blend, to be perfect, the blending well might have not helped itself by, my grandfather, to the day he sort of died, he drank famous grouse. And, grouse in the 60s was absolutely delicious. And I thought, so he was Aberdeen, because my mum's side Scottish. So I thought, he'd be quite chuffed. He'd be quite proud that, one of his grandsons has gone into the whiskey industry, and now he could get 3 bottles of whiskey. So I delivered him the Trademark X, and I gave it to him, poured it for him. And because he was a man, he had his whiskey at 6 o'clock every evening with a bit of water. So I poured it for him at 6 o'clock, tries it, And he goes, but can I have my grouse back, please? It's like, oh, right, okay. So he was just an avid grouse fan. You know, I could convert him, but then it was sort of, and people loved black and white and J&B. But now, you know, if you introduce someone to them, you know, they're nowhere near as good as what they used to be. But, you know, people moved on to single malt. So I did get into,
funny you say that.
yeah, I got into trouble once at festivals because someone came up and was like, "Can I try your single malts?" I go, "Yeah, of course." Well, we got this blend here as well. And I didn't pick up the bottle, but I was like, "We've got a blend as well. Do you want to try the blend?" He goes, "No, I want to try your single malt." So I poured him the blend, and then he was like, "Oh, that's really nice. That's really nice." And eventually, you know, I got him. Was like, "Do you want to try the blend again?" And eventually, well, go on then. If your single malts are nice and your blend can't be that bad, and I poured from the same bottle, and he wasn't too pleased with me. He's like, "Ah, why did you do that?" I was like, "Oh, I just wanted you to try. Just wanted you to try the blend." But yeah, no, hopefully he got converted. But I think you're right. I think blind tasting would be amazing to see if people could actually pick
Pick what's what.
and single malts out.
It's funny when you say, like, you know, your fella was such a fan of famous grouse, because, you know, like, to anyone watching, we're not bragging when we say we work in the industry, so we get to try so many things, and we also get a lot of bottles. You just collect them in the end.
Oh yeah.
The amount of like
Yeah.
bottlings I've brought home for my partner's dad, and like stuff that's like, this is so hard to find. There's so few of these, and this is done in this manner. And he's like, "Oh, it's great." And he always buys his bottle of J&B.
It just goes
And
back.
goes back. Yeah. And look, J&B is a great whiskey. I really like J&B, but you know, I'll go in and I'm like, you've got like the bottles you've got on there. You've got closed distilleries, demolished distilleries. You've got things from all over the world. You've got things that are older than I am, and he's just got his bottle of J&B, but he's happy with it.
Oh,
and
so
I guess that's something. Yeah. I did pull up something, by the way, because I remember this when you were talking about the original James Eadie Trademark X. I remembered that I saw an original bottle on the auctions recently.
Yes, it says that Trademark X is now a supermarket blend, which isn't necessarily true.
Oh god.
Yeah.
I didn't read that bit.
Yeah, so
I've only just seen it. I think that's kind of shitty.
Yeah, we're not even in a supermarket anymore.
Well, if you're interested, by the way, that bottle was circa 1920s, and that did go for £500. I bid.
Apparently Leon. Yeah, Leon's been keeping an eye on.
£170 on it. Not because I think I no doubt it's worth the money, but I'm also poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
It's not something I want to bid for a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen that. We've seen it pop up. I don't know where it's come from. It's great because it's obviously been lying around in someone's cellar or drinks cabinet, and it's now circulating. It'd be really, again, because I think we've tried one from 1946. So if this one's from the 1920s, it'd be really interesting to see the consistency, because it's another thing that you tend to forget is the reason, even like single malt, so Talisker 10-year-old or Lagavulin 16, they've been blended or vatted from 10,000, 20,000 casks to taste like the original 16-year-old, but just to see the quality of whiskey, because obviously the difference between Trademark X now and Trademark X in 1946 or the 1950s, 1940, sorry, is the equipment's changed from then. The quality of wood, people concentrate on wood now. All these things have sort of gone in, longer mash bills and fermentation. So to see the quality of the blending then to now, and sort of side-by-side comparison, because talking to Norman, who's our master blender, I mean, he does everything by his nose. So the skill of the blenders is absolutely phenomenal, and a great story of sort of highlighting that the blenders are sort of the sort of artists of the industry is when Rupert and Norman were in the warehouse selecting their whiskey. So Norman would just go through, and he doesn't drink whiskey anymore. I mean, he's been in the industry since he was about 16, and he's now, I think he's around about almost 70. But he doesn't really drink whiskey anymore because he just noses it. And he was going around these casks, he was just sort of having a nose of every single one. Rupert, who, he's worked for Beam and Diageo, and he starts off at McLeod, so he obviously knows about the whiskey industry. But he's sort of had all these sort of these ideas of of how to sort of sell a blend. So when he was nosing the cask, Rupert really liked the smell of the cask, and he thought, well, that smells lovely. It's like, let's put that into the sampling room. And Norman was like, there's no point, because it doesn't, I don't like it. And Rupert sort of overturns it and being like, no, it's my company. I'm gonna, I want to sample this. So they're there in the sampling room, and Norman goes, well, this is one that you picked out. And then Rupert tried it, and he smelled it. It smells amazing. Tried it, and it was dead. And then Norman's like, there's no point of putting that cask into this blend, because there's only, there's about 80 casks that go into blend. So, you will dull it down, even in that one cask, so it's sort of 250 litres or less, it's going to affect the final product. So his selection process and his nose to sort of bring us this final thing. And then Rupert was like, oh, that's great. So it took Norman 2 attempts to get the right sort of balance. And then Rupert was like, great, we've got our blend, let's put it all into a bottle and off we go. And then Norman's like, you have to marry it. You have to marry it all in a cask. Like, why do you want to rush the market? So then Rupert, again, who thought it was a bit of a marketing myth of marrying blended Scotch, went along with it, because after Norman, winning 1-0 on the cask selection, he's like, well, you're the boss. So then we married the Trademark X for 6 months, and then brought it out. And the comparison, and Rupert says the comparison between sampling the pre-marriage to now to the final product is phenomenal. And then that means, so our second edition has been marrying for a year, just to really bring all these flavors together. So Norman is and blenders in the industry, they just know how whiskey sort of works. It's incredible.
The blenders are kind of that forgotten hero of the whiskey industry in a way, because so much, blends are drunk so much more than malts, and I think pretty much anyone who works in a warehouse would agree with you that blending a whiskey is much more difficult than maturing a whiskey.
Oh yeah,
getting that fine balance between all the casks.
And
we look down on blends, which is shit.
Yeah, it's bad, because it's the skill, sort of the artful, because even single malts are blended. When people go, well, single malts are the purest form of whiskey, you just want to say, well, surely you only drink single cask, because single cask theoretically is the purest form of whiskey, because it's that distillate and that wood, and you can't get it again. But it's funny how you talk about how difficult blending is, because Rupert and I were at a festival, and then we sort of worked out that all our single malts were in our blend as well. So we had a Blair Athol, Canvas, which is one of our lovely old grains that you were talking about, Coalila and Dow Ewan. So I was like, well, why don't I, try and recreate the Trademark X? And it's, it was near impossible. And Rupert tried to go, no, I'm definitely not hiring you. I'm definitely not hiring you over Norman. I was like, no, I don't think that'll be right. But it's amazing, because even sort of, it's for people at home, if you've got a few bottles of whiskey there, then, just have a little play around. I know people who sort of, on a night they want a sort of a smoky sherry, but they don't have a smoky sherry whiskey. They'll take one bottle and then, sort of mix it with another single malt. So, it also saves you a bit of money, so you don't keep on drinking your nice stuff. You sort of batter it together, but it's a really, really difficult skill, and it's all done with the nose, which is just, that's the thing that amazes me. There's no taste involved. They just know what's going on. Their nose is just sort of king, and it knows what it's what it's looking for, and oh, this one's floral, but you don't want to take too much of this one because it dial down this one. It's sort of getting all that balance. Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. But I do like single malts. I'm not knocking single. Single malts are lovely, but I think you tend to. I mean, a lot of people forget that single malt distilleries were created for blends, so they're an ingredient. So they were never created for that distillery character. They were created for the bigger thing, which is just an amazing thing to sort of think about. There's sort of those companies back in the early 1900s were going on. We need a whiskey that tastes like this for this, so we need a waxy whiskey. So Clynelish, Clynelish, was the one that was waxy that had to go into blend, but now Clynelish has sort of been given this whole, and it's an amazing whiskey, and it's been given its own platform for it to sort of be tried. But now, because Clynelish is now a single, they need to go and find another distillery that gives it. And the great thing about the Scotch whisky industry is, so Pernod, who owns Chivas, Diageo, Grants, even McLeod's, they all trade together. So, if Chivas need, let's say, Linkwood from Diageo go, absolutely, here you go, here's some Linkwood, can we take some Altmore or I think Altmore's owned by Bacardi. There's just an open market where they're free to trade. There's no sort of, there's no rivalries. You basically want everyone to succeed. Also, if you look at the Japanese whiskey, you've got Suntory and Nikka, and they build their own distilleries for their own blend. So the Hibiki for Suntory is made up of Yamazaki, Cheetah, and Hakushu, and then because the Hakushu is the smoky element of Hibiki, Cheetah's the grain, and then Yamazaki is that sweetness. But they don't trade with each other. So why their stocks being sort of non-existent because they're not willing to sort of support each other, which I find very interesting. But that's why the blending world works.
Well, I think it's something to be said about the Scottish, the English, the UK whiskey industry as a whole. I think because there was so much pressure on the blending to make those great quality blends decades and hundreds of years ago, they've got a support network within the whiskey industry itself that you don't see in all communities around the world. And this is by no means us knocking any other whiskey community from any other country, but you have that, when you as you said, you've got the distilleries trading amongst themselves, they talk to each other, they know each other, they love each other. There is competition in some areas, but for the majority, we're all making whiskey, and we just want to make whiskey, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just and even when you go to the festivals, it's not sort of there's no sort of fights between two tables. It's like everyone's sort of talking. It's like, and people come over and go, especially in the independent bottling world, it's sort of, someone from another independent will come up and be like, oh, we really like this one of yours, and then we'll go over and try theirs and go, that one's amazing. Can you sell me a cask of it? So there's no sort of there's no sort of bitter rivalries. Maybe it'd be good marketing to sort of start, pretend that you don't like each other, so you have to pick a side between one company or the other.
I mean, I worked for an independent bottler in Scotland as well, and I remember, the guys who did all the, they picked the casks, and they were the heads of the panel and everything. And the amount of times that, we were talking about a whiskey and they said, I really wish we had bought that barrel.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic because, they want to have that particular barrel, and the other guys, that they're having that same conversation, and it's like, I wish I bought the barrel. I'm just going to go out and I'm going to buy half a dozen bottles and drink them all because...
Yeah, exactly. That should be mine. That should be our whiskey. Yeah. It's a really nice industry to work in. That's one thing I do miss is the festivals, because you get these people who love their whiskey, and it's just a really, really nice well, if you're at the Whiskey Fringe, for instance, it's just a really nice few days of sort of talk to people who are obviously keen about how it's made and what your company is. So that's one thing I definitely do miss is sort of seeing everyone at the festivals. And then you obviously know people. When you're on the road or going to all these festivals, you see the same people the whole time. So people go, don't trust him, dodgy whiskey over there, and so it's great fun.
See, I like that because, like the first time I went to a whiskey festival, and I'm sure it was probably the same for you. I was a punter. I was there going there to drink. But,
Oh,
obviously most recently I've gone to whiskey festivals to work, and it's funny because the similarities between the people who go to there to drink and the people who go there to work, it's exactly the same. You simply hang out in different groups, but
yeah,
everyone does the wander. Everyone does the wander. Everyone tries what's interesting. And then everyone gets together and goes, oh, this is the one we all love. And it doesn't matter
yeah,
which group you're in, whether you're a punter or whether you're a worker. You do the
mm,
exact same thing. And I quite like that. I
yeah.
think that's great.
Yeah, it's great because you get people, and it's amazing because we see at different at every festival there's a different one of our whiskies. There's a different one that's always seems to be more popular because you get that person tries it and then they go over to the sort of group and go, oh, I've just tried this all Rusk from over here. You should go and try it. And the amount of people you get over being like, oh, my friend told me this, that I should go and try this. And then someone who's next to them they don't know will get into a conversation, go, oh yeah, I really like that one, but have you gone and tried this one over there? And go, oh no, and then they sort of go off and try, and then you just get people sort of having like a discussion about which whiskey's best. I've never actually been to a festival as a punter though, sadly. I
You
just
should, I mean, if
I would love to go. I just don't know what I'll do myself. I'll just be there. I'm quite lucky that I'm shackled behind the table because otherwise I'll just get too excited and sort of try, can I try this? Can I try that?
well, the way you say that, like the amount of guys I've met who they show me they've got the program, they've downloaded the map,
Yeah.
and they've made like a route, and they're like, we're hitting these guys first, and then we have to
Mm.
go over here, and we go over
Yeah.
here, and here, and then and
And
then
then back.
and
Yeah.
it's amazing, and they're like, yeah, we have to do it in an order because these guys all have the bourbon whiskeys,
Mm.
the bourbon cask matured whiskeys we want to try. And these guys have some bourbons, and these guys have rums, and these
Yeah.
guys have the sherries, and we finish on the peat.
Yeah.
And
The paint. Yeah. It's amazing.
it's fascinating.
Yeah, you get
I
people
did meet some guys.
showing their sort of, as you say, they show you their programs, and they've circled the ones
Mm,
they want cargoes. So you see, there's a Colila that's been circled, but then they've also circled your sort of bourbon and sherry finished or cask finishes. And you go, well, do you want to try this one? He goes, no, I'll come back because I'm just doing the bourbons now. And then he's like, well, do you want to try the Colila? He's like, no, that's at the end. And then you sort of see them throughout the day, and usually by the time it's peat, they're pretty tired. They're having like,
I like seeing them when they've come back, and like, the first time you see them, they all look immaculate, and the next time you
mm,
see them, they've lost their jackets, and the next time you see
yeah,
them,
there's oat
someone's got
cakes in their
whiskey. One
beard.
of them, one of them has lost a hat.
Yeah, yeah. Oat
It's
cake is
great.
everywhere. Just
Uh,
have a good day. Yeah,
I like that. I think that's great.
I
But I
think it's
did
great.
I did want to ask you as well because obviously I put a lot of research into these, so I know that one, the whiskey shop you worked in was Glenkeir Whiskies.
Yes, yeah, that's one.
The power of LinkedIn, and two, you studied religion and theology.
Mm, yeah. Well,
I
that's
have to ask, what? Because I wrote this in the Twitter. I said, find out what made Hugh turn from studying the Bible to studying the Bible. May make
yeah,
you sound like an alcoholic,
yeah.
but
No,
I gotta ask, what was the change there?
it's a weird one. So the reason why I study religion and theology is I originally wanted to study history. So I was always into sort of humanities, and so I studied for A level. I studied philosophy and ethics, history, and PE. So mixture. So I wanted to do history at university. I actually ended up doing a lot better in my philosophy and ethics than I did in my history. So then I had to sort of reapply to these unis. And so when I got to when I was looking at Brooks, so originally I wanted to go to Newcastle because I'm a Newcastle United fan to do history. But then I sort of reset and said, well, I was, philosophy. I actually really enjoyed philosophy. It's probably one of those things. My brother and my dad are big into history, and my brother did history at uni as well. But then actually I was probably better at philosophy. So I'm going to university anyway. And then sort of my family said, someone, you do go to university, do something you enjoy. And don't go and, study something you don't want to study because you think it's going to help. And I learned that lesson because I got a U at economics at AS level. So I was like, well, I'm not going to just go to uni and do something that I think's good. So going back to the drawing board, I was like, well, I really enjoyed philosophy. But then I saw that Oxford Brookes' sort of acceptance for philosophy, I think, was sort of ABB, which, quite surprised me. So I got ACC. So then I went safe and I was like, well, I'll do religion and theology. Even though I'm not really particularly religious at all. But I wanted to study something I found interesting. Sort of my being brought up as a sort of a Catholic, so there was religion in my life, but I was more interested in sort of the philosophy of religion. So then that's why I studied. So I didn't actually study. I managed to pick my modules, and I managed to avoid theology because I didn't really enjoy that side. So I studied more on the philosophy of religion. But the joke is sort of, how did you get from religion to whiskey? I go, well, it's all about the spirit. And then so it's sort of there's the sort of bridge. But yeah, so it wasn't, I wasn't trying to be a vicar or anything. It was just something I enjoyed. And as I said, the sort of transition from whiskey into whiskey was getting to that age of 22 when you need to think beyond university. And I did work experience in all sorts of industries. And then the one I enjoyed the most was working in gin with my sister. So then I thought, well, I'd quite like to go into the booze industry, so I'll have a look around. I didn't want to do gin because that was my sister's. I've always had a fascination with whiskey. I remember my sort of first journey into whiskey was at the Jameson's distillery. When we were 11, we went on a family holiday to Ireland, and I remember sort of walking through there and sort of just being sort of blown away by it. And I wasn't allowed to taste it, so I think I was 12, and my brother was 18, so my brother was allowed to have a sample, and I wasn't. So I was furious about that, but the Jameson's distillery always stuck with me. And then my grandfather drinking grouse was just always something he did. So when you're growing up, there's always sort of grouse around in the evening, And we used to steal sort of ginger ales from his drinks cabinet, and there was always sort of a bottle of grouse there. So, and obviously mum's side. So my dad was in the Gordon Highlanders in the army, and then mum was comes from Aberdeen. So then it's that side as well. So it's sort of all linked. So I was like, well, why don't I go and explore a bit of whiskey? So I popped into the shop, spoke to Ben, the shop manager at the time, who's still a good friend of mine. But I'm just quite interested about whiskey. So, A, do you have a job? And B, do you have anything that I can sort of read up on and get to know whiskey a bit more? And he gave me a sort of like a test thing. Sort of how do you say it? A virtual interactive thing on your computer, because I want to know whiskey. And then I just started taking notes on that, and it just blew my mind, because then you start learning like the little gems of whiskey, of sort of the maturation and the time and the distillery process. So it all started with the distillery process, and then he hired me, and then we're talking to sort of customers who come in and they'll talk to you about whiskey, and it was a great place to learn in the shop. And I highly recommend anyone who sort of wants to get into the whiskey industry go and work in the shop, because you get people who just know far more. They're not, they've probably forgotten more than I've ever known. You meet people who've been collecting whiskey for 60 years, and they always buy 2 bottles or something because they want to drink one and then keep one, and they will tell you about, the Ardbeg in 1975, and it's just an amazing sort of place. And and then from there, I remember sitting down with my dad, and he was saying, because it's after university, I was like, is it all right if I still live here and then drive down to Oxford there and back? And he goes, absolutely. And it's like, I'm not going to give you any money, but I will, you know, if you want to stick with whiskey, then I'll pay for a course. I'm not giving you money to go up to London to go and get pissed with your mates and then you come down and nurse hangover. So if you want to do something productive, then, you know, I'll give you some money. And then we started searching for courses online, because it's always nice. Obviously, you could read about it and you know, develop your own information, but then you sort of want to be reassured that what you read isn't sort of a lie. You don't want to suddenly go to someone and go, "Oh yeah, so whiskey only has to get matured for 2 years." I go, "No, it's 3 years." Or, "Well, I read it in this book that said 2 years." You know, it's that sort of thing. So just wanted a bit more sort of clarification on sort of the industry and the knowledge. So then we found the Edinburgh Whisky Academy, and that was a 2-day course in single malt diploma. And then that actually, so I already knew about the distillation process, but that opened my eyes to the history of it. And obviously, being, you know, really interested in history and humanities before, the history of whiskey just really sort of, it just, you know, the story about whiskey and what it's done through time and everything, it just really captured my imagination. And then, you know, that was it. I think I was sold, and I really enjoyed working in the shop. So I was like, well, a bit like uni. I'd much rather do something I enjoy than just do something for the hell of it. So yeah, there we are too. And then Rupert High, being 2.5 years later, here I am. It's been a great journey. Long may it continue. If COVID, you know, goes away.
If COVID goes away, we can all get back to work.
Exactly.
That's gonna be. But I had pretty much everything we've spoken about. I had written down as a question I was going to ask you.
Oh, well,
so you've answered
sorry.
all of them. No. That's fantastic. But what that means is that I've got 10 other questions that I've got to ask you, because I don't know if you've actually watched this, but I always do.
I haven't actually.
At the end.
I wanted it to be a surprise. I wanted it to be a surprise. I didn't want to have too much research.
What I do at the end is I always ask, I ask 5 questions, 5 quiz questions that combine something that you have done in your life and whiskey. And I do 5 anagrams that are related to your whiskey.
No, my dyslexia is going to go absolutely crazy, huh? Okay.
I didn't know you were dyslexic.
I have a job after this.
But I do have for you 5 quiz questions, and for you, I went with the religion thing. So 5 questions about religion and whiskey.
Okay.
You good to begin? Do you want to get a whiskey now?
No, I've still got enough. Got a pint of whiskey.
All right. Can you explain the significance of John Core?
John Orr.
John Core.
John Core.
C-O-R. John Core.
Oh, I do remember reading about this. Was he a monk?
He was.
He was. And he bought a bushel of malt, didn't he, for the king? Was it that?
You've got 2 of those things are correct.
Yeah.
There's a very specific thing regarding John, and there was an order that came in. To those people who are watching currently, feel free to comment if you think you have the answer, by the way.
I definitely remember the name. Did he make the first sort of sign of whiskey for the king?
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah. So,
Activito, there we are. It seems like the whiskey is our only fan at the moment.
The whiskey novice Simon is great, but yeah. So Friar John Core, Brother John Core, is the first name mentioned in conjunction with whiskey in Scottish records, as far as we know. Generally, there could be something in it in the library somewhere. but the
Yeah.
text reads, "From the exchequer rolls to Brother John Caller by order of the king to make
Yeah.
aquavitae from 8 bowls of malt."
8 bowls of malt, right? 8 bushels of malt.
8
Yeah.
bowls of malt.
And do you
And
think that was
that's
at Lindor's
stated.
Abbey then?
I mean, that was actually my next question. Was, do
Oh,
you
right.
know the abbey where he worked? Is Lindor's Abbey? I'm
It
going
was
to give you
Lindor's
that.
Abbey.
That's
Yeah, thank you very
fantastic.
much.
All right, but yeah, and that's written from 1494. The
Mm.
technical date of the writing of the Exchequer Roll, I think that was actually in 1495, but I think they
Yeah.
dated it back. That part I'm not too sure about.
Yeah.
But yes, and also the next question you got completely right. The
Yeah.
distillery, well, the distillery, the abbey you worked at the time was Lindor's
Yeah.
Abbey. Got that
Have you been
very
to
nice.
Lindor's? It's lovely, but they.
I know.
Yeah.
The worst thing is, I used to work with Tim, who is now the sales manager, and I think he runs the gin
He came up with
distillery as well.
Aquavitae for all the cocktails, didn't he? I met him.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
fantastic. We work
Yeah.
together. And I've got to visit Lindor's Abbey sometime, but I'm
Yeah.
never in Scotland anymore, which I hate because I love Scotland.
Dude,
Scotland's
they're
great.
they're a great bunch down at Lindor's. They're really, really nice. So they host the Five Whiskey Festival supper before
Oh, nice.
as well. So no, they're great. And actually, we've managed to. If you go there, you'll see a few James Eadie bottles behind the bar, hopefully. So yeah, we've been sort of. I don't know. I think Leon sort of made the connection, and then because Leon's also he did history at Durham, so he's a bit of a history guy as well. And so he's sort of fascinated with the Lindor's side of it, and we just met them, and he met Tim at Robbie's Drams Festival down there, and then it sort of went from there. But yeah, no, the Lindor's guys they're great. So anyone watching, I highly recommend when you're allowed, go and see the guys there, and they'll sort of talk you through the sort of history of how they were the first site to make whiskey, which is always nice.
I love how they can claim that they definitely weren't. By the way, this is not the
But
diss
on
on
record.
Lindor's Abbey. I love Lindor's Abbey. I love the
Yeah.
guys there. But they definitely weren't. There were definitely people before them, but we just don't have the written record of it.
Yeah.
So
They've got this thing in the ground where it looks like a sort of a still was kept. So it's got this lovely, where they light it. It's an amazing place. It's great. So definitely anyone there listening, definitely go and see those guys up there. They're great. Anyway, back to the quiz.
back to the quiz. So there was a term, by the way, in there, aquavitae.
Mm.
Could you tell me what language aquavitae is from and what it means?
It means water of life. And it is Irish, isn't it? Celtic.
Ooh, no.
Is it French?
No.
Latin.
Think old. Think old.
Latin.
Think priests. Latin.
Latin. No,
Yeah.
Latin. Yeah. Water.
So,
Apparently, I think, yeah, it's definitely water of life and Latin. I should have known that. Aquavitae. Definitely should have known that. I had to study Latin once upon a time, and all I know is Massamat and Homosomas. Which
what the fuck does that mean?
means I love, you love, he loves, she loves, fruit, they love, we love, I think. That's the only thing. I was taught it for about 4 years, and that's the only thing I could actually remember. And it took me about 4 years to learn that. Massamat, Malmus, Amatus, and that.
I'm gonna get you to email that to me just so I
I
can
will double
more
check.
language than the one language, and then more Latin than the one piece of Latin I know.
Yeah.
But speaking of Irish, you did hint at this in that last question.
Mm.
Do you know what the Scots Gaelic or the Irish Gaelic translation for water of life is?
Aquabrathe. Something Brathe, isn't it?
Yeah. You're going very archaic with the spelling pronunciation there, actually.
Oh yeah, no, I can't pronounce it. How did I not remember this? I put this written down somewhere. I've got my note.
Can't look at notes. That's cheating.
No, that is cheating. God, I have a mind blank here.
Now, please, anyone who is watching as well, if you
Help me out,
if you know
please. I'm
the
struggling.
spelling.
Is this spelled BR? Read the question again. What's the Gaelic
So,
translation?
what is the Gaelic translation for water of life? The Latin translation is aqua vitae. French is eau de vie. What is the Gaelic?
Ushkabrath, that's the one. Ushkabrathi.
Yeah, MC Drama is correct, and MC
Yeah.
Drama, yeah,
Well, there we are.
yeah.
I did know that.
MC Drama
MC
even
Drama,
has
MC Drama.
well, in that first part, he's even put that's the Irish spelling, because now that's Uiscebeatha. The Scots Gaelic is Uisge. So Ushkibar,
Ushkabar, that's one. Ushkabrathi. I don't know why.
It's a fascinating thing because that is this. You will love this. That was originally, I think, that was Ushkibitha, then became Ushkibar, then
Ushkabar, yeah.
whiskey. That's where we get
That's
the
it.
word
That
whiskey.
is, yeah. So that's why I thought Ushkabrathi to, yeah. But it was because I've always read it. So I've read it as Ushkabrathi. But I just say, yeah, Ushkabar. There we are.
I mean, I was testing that. Now, the last question I have there. There's one last piece of information in that exchequer roll, and this is not about religion. This is about history.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me who was the king in 1494. Who was the king? And you're a history buff, so you'll know this. I did not know this. I had to look this up because
is it John?
It's not on. You've got the first letter right.
Oh, it was James.
It's one of the Jameses. Which James is it?
In 1494. Was
1494.
it of England, of the UK? Because it's James I of Scotland, who's I think the James III of England.
Now, I didn't research the question that much. I've simply got a name here.
Yeah.
It's I'd have to look that up.
Well, second. James II of Scotland or James II of England? So James. Oh, yeah, here we go. So James VI was the first. It was the first king, James I of Scotland. So I think it'd be James 1949. James III or James II?
You're one off.
James IV.
James the Fourth, yeah.
No, James IV. No,
James the Fourth. Now that was a cruel question. But
that was a good question. I did enjoy that. The thing is, my dad was here. We were playing sort of a quiz of eggheads. So it's just a card game of eggheads.
Yeah.
Dad just knows all that sort of history. We did a history one, and he just knows everything. Just like, I think you probably sing the song to all the kings and queens of England. He's a sort of a history buff. 1494, James IV.
As a foreigner, I do have to tell you, the general consensus amongst the rest of the world is everyone who lives in England knows every king and queen of England.
Oh God, I definitely do not.
That's just something we generally assume. And to be fair, when I did get here, well, most people I know who are English,
because like the hacker in New Zealand, the English boys and girls have to sing the kings and queens of England before they sit down. Or have breakfast. You can't have your breakfast till you name kings and queens of England.
Anyway,
very good questions.
I would say, I mean, you got 4 out of those 5
Oh,
questions.
I'm livid about not knowing. Well, I do not getting Ushkabar right.
But you were, I could see it. You knew
Yeah.
bar, and you were spelling it and everything, and so that
Yeah.
I give you that. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you very much. 4 out of 5. That's very good.
Well,
John Orr, that's so weird. When you mentioned it, something just sort of clicked. Because that's
do
in
you know
Edinburgh Whisky Academy's history thing. They mentioned
it
that.
is?
Mm.
Because I've also done the Edinburgh Whisky Academy
Have
course.
you? Did you
I
do?
knew it
You
was in
have
there. That's why I asked it.
that's great. Yeah, did write it out. Who did you have? I had Vic. Had good old Vic Cameron as my lecturer there.
I had Vic. Vic.
The
Yeah.
man who knows everything about barley. Uh,
Oh my God. I remember chatting with him just for, I think, about 2 hours, because I was getting a taxi back from the place where it was to my
mm,
place, and the taxi was taking ages to arrive. And the amount of stuff that that man just knows about
mm,
whiskey and about barley, it's
mm.
fascinating. Vic
That's
Cameron,
incredible.
I'm gonna try and invite him on here. I'm gonna give him a
Yeah,
really
do
good
do. He's very entertaining. He's now a vicar, so that's religion again. All links back. But it's amazing. So he went to a distillery tour, and obviously, so in distilleries they always have sort of grain in the glass, and they say, "Well, this is barley. So this is barley. This is what's made down to whiskey." And he goes up to the tour guide and he goes, "I know that's wheat, not barley." And he goes, "How the hell do you know that?" So even in the glass, you could tell that it wasn't barley, and he sort of whispered and sort of was like, "Oh, I know that's not barley. It's like it's wheat." It's like, "How on earth do you know that?" And then because he's got the eye for it. Amazing.
uh,
He was a very good teacher. If anyone's sort of interested in doing something like that, you don't have to do it to get into the industry. Go and do it for sort of
mm.
interest. It's an amazing course. When did you do yours?
No,
When did you do
say
your,
again.
when did you do your course?
I I was on I think I was on the first course, the first or the second,
Well, yeah.
because I got invited to do it through work, because they were just starting and they were partnering with who I was working with. So they
Mm.
invited me on. So I actually did the course up against the main person that I remember being on my course. There was myself, there was someone from Hong Kong come over, there was someone who was starting her own distillery. I think it was actually Abby from Cooper King. Might have
Oh,
been her. I'll ask her. There was um there was a blogger whose name I can't remember. There was a bloke who had heard about it and was really interested and he wanted to be in the first course. And then there was Charles McLean.
ah,
Was on it. And it was like,
incredible.
you've got all these people in the room,
Mm.
and then Charles McLean, and it's like, well, he's gonna know all this.
Yeah, he knows
This is
all of it.
unfair.
I could imagine sort of like leaning back on his chair as like the sort of naughty schoolboy, being like, "I don't need to learn this."
Well, what he did mention, because the first day was all about history, but the second day about production, because he came straight out and he said, I'm very good with history, but I know jack all about production.
Really?
So there was, he was raising his hand and asking questions, and Vic was correcting
Mm.
him, and it was like, this is two masters
Yeah, of their trade
of the
versus
ah,
history. Yeah,
and it was
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. I had on my course I had David Soul who captained Scotland to the to the Grand Slam to the Six Nations. Anyway,
Uh,
so, yeah. So, but it's quite a funny story. So, Mum had always said to me growing up, it's like, oh, I knew the captain of Scotland when they won the Six Nations, and I grew up with him. He used to be a great friend of mine. So anyway, I remember sort of being in this room, and everyone was sort of always talking to this to David, to this guy, and I didn't know. I think I forgot his name immediately. But everyone's asking him about sort of. Oh, do you remember Glenmorangie did a whiskey for the Scotland Six Nations? And I was there, like, oh yeah, my mum grew up with. Oh, fun fact: my mum apparently grew up with the captain of Scotland, and the captain of Scotland, and everyone in the room went silent. And David looks and goes, "Oh, what's his name?" I was like, "Oh, I think it's Duncan or something. I don't know." And then everyone burst out laughing. Everyone burst out laughing. And it was like, and one of the guys turned to us, "I'll put him out of his misery." He goes, "Oh, no, that's me. It's David Soul." And then he goes, "Who's your mother?" I go, "Oh, she's Isla Barron, Isla Campbell back." And he goes, "Oh, Isla, I haven't seen her in ages. How's she doing?" And so everyone thought, I was trying to lie, being like, "Well, I know, my mum knows David Soul," but actually it turned out that he's like, "Oh yeah, I know Isla." So my mum A wasn't lying, and B, I was there sort of red faced because everyone was talking to him about rugby, and I remember having a conversation before that. So what do you do? He's like, "I used to play rugby," and I was like, "Oh, that's quite cool. Like, who do you play for?" And we were sort of talking. He's like, "Who do you support?" I was like, "Oh, I support Bath." He goes, "Oh, I used to play for Bath." I was like, "Oh, that's quite interesting because obviously, like rugby, in the didn't turn professional until sort of late 90s. So I was like, "Oh, that's quite cool. They play for Bath," but not knowing that I was talking to a Scottish legend who sort of grew up with my mum. So yeah, that was my story from that. Just I
Like, that's awesome.
really going quiet, just been like laughing, and then going like put him out of his misery, and I was like, "Oh God, there he is."
How bad would it have been if that was when you found out your mother was a liar? Like,
Yeah, it's like no, she didn't. I was like, "Oh, fine, that's it." Red faced, someone with an English accent, a group full of Scots, is claiming they knew the captain of Scotland. But yeah, no, it was a great course. It was amazing. Um, and I think
no,
they
we
did really
definitely
well with
recommend
Harrows. I
everyone
think
watching.
yeah, they've definitely done. I mean, sort of it's come on. They've done really well in the Macari. So that it's run by a brother and sister whose father used to be CEO, managed director of Glenmorangie and Ardbeg before Louis Vuitton got them. So they've been in the industry for a while. And it's a really really good course to do.
It's great. And also, if you're a gin lover, I think they added. Did they add a
Yeah,
gin course?
yeah. They added a
Yeah.
gin course as well. Yeah. And did you do it? Yeah, you must have done it at Anderson House as well. They were doing that lovely.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Mm,
It is in the middle of nowhere, but
yeah.
it's like because that was I had only been in Scotland for a few months when that happened, and so I was walking around taking tons of pictures of it to send to my family because
Mm,
there's nothing like that in Australia. And the other people were like, "We have these everywhere," and I'm like, "No,
yeah.
what do you
Uh,
mean? This is like a."
yeah.
Because I think I said at one point, I think
This
I
is older than
said
my
it's a
country.
castle, and they said that's not a castle, that's a house. I'm like, that's not a house.
It's not a house. Yeah. It's yeah, amazing. I was late to the bus, and I sort of it was because it was a really early start. I don't know if they still do it, but it was a really early start, and I was running around Edinburgh trying to find the thing, and I sort of got in. I've eventually got to the thing about 20 minutes late, sort of out of breath, and I'm so sorry, but no one sort of replied to me because it's 6 o'clock in the morning. So, oh, you're late. But yeah, I need to drive about 20 minutes out of Edinburgh, and it's this beautiful house. It was amazing. It was a really, really good learning experience. And I remember even in my interview with Rupert, because they teach you all about taxes in one of the chapters. Do you remember?
Oh yeah,
So when I was speaking to Rupert, I was trying to because I think I did it about 2 weeks before I met Rupert. So I had all my notes and stuff. So I was reading through my notes. I'm going to try and sort of wow him with all my facts. So I was like, so what do you think about the tax in Egypt being like 1,500% on a bottle of whiskey? Just throwing out like random sort of. I mean, it might even be more. But I just remember just remember this bit because this is something that you didn't because I didn't know it before. I found it really interesting. So
yeah.
I went in with a few sort of snippets in the interview, trying to sort of basically BS my way through it, being like, "Look how much I know." This is sort of all in my notebook in my bag, and I've just sort of rehearsed it like a line from a play.
I love that.
Mm.
But we now have. I'm sorry to your dyslexia. We now have 5 anagrams.
Oh, great! Here we are. How do I see it?
So I have a whiteboard
Billboard. Okay. Do I need a
now.
pen?
You can use a pen. You can. I'll give you clues. I will tell you that everything in this category is a blend or a famous blender.
Okay.
In honor of James Eadie. Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Thank
So,
you. Oh, good.
your first question is Rich Salvage.
Hugh, Barron. And it's a blend or a blender?
This is a blended whiskey.
And it's a blended whiskey.
Yeah.
Shiva. No. Yeah, Chivas Regal.
Chivas Regal is correct. Yeah. Chivas Regal is the right one.
Yeah, oh yeah. I was having like, which one has a V in it?
Hey, you're doing it the right way, you know.
Yeah.
You've taken it
Process of
and you've gone,
elimination.
yeah, that's that. I like that. I think that's good. Now, weird question for you. Has your video stopped?
No, I'm still going, I think. Am I still on the screen?
No. I'm more asking because I've completely frozen up on my screen.
No, you're still moving.
As long as you can see me, then that's okay. So, your next famous blend is Inhale Own Jerk.
Inhale and jerk.
Hugh Barron.
With you,
If you were to inhale your own jerk, which whiskey would you be drinking?
Oh, oh, I've lost you. I can't see it. Inhale and jerk. There we are.
Oh, there we go.
There we are. You're back. Justerini and Brooks? No, there's no B.
You've got the right letter. You're starting with the right letter there.
J. Oh. James. No, there's not.
Arguably the most famous blend in the world
Oh, Johnny Walker.
is Johnny Walker.
Yeah, Johnny Walker.
Walker
Yeah.
is an anagram of
XT
inhale.
John, yeah. Yeah, should have got that. Inhale your own jerk. Ugh. Johnny
I'm not
Walker.
doing a lot of the moments, so making rude anagrams of whiskey brands is kind of my pastime.
Yeah, that's just your hobby. Or your skill.
It's not very easily marketable, is it?
Yeah. Hire me because I can make a rude anagram about your company.
That sounds like extortion.
Yeah, that does. Hire me or I will wreak havoc on you on social media.
I am not that. But here we go. Your third anagram is
Already.
a lentils band.
It's a blend. It's not a blender.
This is a blend. Yeah.
Valentine's.
Yeah. Shit, you got it in one.
Yeah. Warmed up. You've warmed up my brain now. Were they
That's the thing.
They were the guys who had the geese as the security guards, didn't they? They had the famous geese. That was Valentine.
Hey, I want to hear about this.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't know that.
they had I think it was them who had geese as sort of guard dogs because geese are very protective on the banks of the Clyde, and they're very territorial, so they make amazing guard dogs. So I think yeah, they a bit of a legend. I think it was Valentine's. I need to double check that, but yeah,
I'm gonna look that up because if that's true, that is my favorite whiskey fact.
Yeah, let's double check that. Is that right? Yeah, it was. There we are. The Whiskey Novice. Yeah, it's Valentine's. So yeah, they used.
Thank you very much, there, Simon.
So I think the security guards just sort of, if they heard anything, they'll go and help out the geese. But because they always sort of stay, I actually have one in a village along. They always stay by the side of the road, so you always drive past the geese because
You
they
have a
like.
Valentine's or a goose?
No, sadly, we have geese in the village, and the farmer just lets them sort of roam around the road, and they sort of never leave the road, so you always drive past them. But you don't want to get out of your car and walk towards them because they get very sort of angsty, apparently, because they're quite protective.
They do taste nice. I do like
I've
it.
never had it, to be honest. I've never had it. When have you
It's
had
bloody
geese?
nice. Yeah. Say again.
Yeah. When did you have geese or goose?
I was in France for work actually, and
Oh,
yeah, good stuff though.
yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe I'll go and nick one from the village. Or then I'll get chased out by pitchforks. I'll go and steal one of our geese or goose.
A medium rare goose breast is bloody good stuff, and it's big.
Is it big?
That's a good piece.
Is it fatty? I can imagine it being quite juicy.
It was very juicy. It wasn't too fatty. That
Oh,
really impressed me.
oh,
Yeah,
that's good.
that was good. There's a
Next
layer
time
of
I'm in
fat.
France.
It wasn't marbled with fat.
Yeah.
Like there was then there was the meat.
Oh, lovely. Well, next time I'm in France.
Anyway, anagram number 4.
Number 4.
Got 2 more left. So far you're doing really well. I gotta be honest,
Yeah.
you're doing really well. So,
Johnny Walker was a bad one. Should have got that.
you might do better with this one. This one is kraut cyst.
Kraut cyst. Kraut cyst.
Kraut cyst.
Blend. Ah. For some reason, I've just got Cristal in my head, which I don't know why, because that's definitely not a whiskey. But I've just seen.
You're starting with I mean, I think you're starting with the right letter there.
Mm,
Does yeah. Let's start with one of these two.
mm,
Um, think about boats.
yeah, Cutty Sark.
Cutty Sark. Cutty
Cutty
Sark
Sark.
is an
Yeah,
anagram of kraut cyst.
it's Kraut
Uh,
cyst. Is Cutty
that
Sark.
might be my favorite anagram.
That's a good one. That's a very good one. I mean, that was an amazingly popular blend in America, wasn't it? Cutty Sark.
It still is. Is it? Oh,
Yeah, I think it must be.
it's
But it
not
used
one
to
of
be
the
Berry
better
Brothers
ones
and
now, but
Rudd.
it's. Say again.
So it was Berry Brothers and Rudd's blend,
Yeah.
and they've now let it go. But I think it's been moved around, but I think Berry Brothers just sold it off recently. One I haven't had too much of, to be honest, with Cutty Sark.
I remember having it every now and then in very weird, very small bars,
Mm,
but it's not what you see bottles of.
no, it's a very popular
Yeah.
brand, but it's hard to sort of get your hands on one.
Interesting to know about that. Anyway, one final anagram.
One more.
This anagram is Idea Jam C.
James Eadie. I didn't get that one right. Wrong, sorry. Well, thank God.
You are
Um,
you are the fastest person to get their own brand by a
really?
long shot.
I just
Most
didn't want to
people
make
need
sure
a
I was sort of,
lot of prodding.
yeah.
Hey.
He keeps the job for another week.
As
Thank you very
Simon
much.
says, yeah, you keep your job for another week. Simon can attest that I believe it was Andy Watts of Baines. Simon actually had to start giving him hints and just
Oh, really?
ended up saying, tell him he lives at the distillery.
Yeah, you live there. Oh, God, where do I live?
Okay.
Oh, that was very good. I enjoyed that. I was getting a bit
That
worried.
was fantastic.
I thought I didn't have a chance there.
No, you were great at all those. And there's just a few questions I got that we normally finish these on. The first
Of
thing
course.
is, where can we buy your whiskey?
So we target specialist whiskey specialists or wine shops. So we're not in any supermarkets. Where can we find the Coalila? Which Coalila are you talking about? Because we just released a new small batch. So basically, Master of Malt, Royal Mile, Luvians, Cambridge ones. If you actually go on our website, there's a map, and we sort of have a map of people we sell to. But yeah, so basically, hopefully, most whiskey specialists. Robbie's Drams, yeah. So Robbie's down in Ayrshire. I forgot to phone Robin today. Actually, I'll do that tomorrow. Yeah. So
about,
independence.
I think Simon's really interested in the Palo Cortado casks that you did. Where can we get them?
When I spoke about the PC, there is one left, and I know this. The shop did have it a week ago. If you type in Grapesmith, it's based in Hungerford, and they said they had one bottle left. Because otherwise, I'm pretty sure it's sold out. Let me check for you.
No, I'm gonna buy this before Simon.
Are you gonna go for it? There's one bottle left. Let's see if they still.
I'm not. I'll give that one to Simon. He's a faster typer as well, but I hope he enjoys it.
Oh, I think they've sold out. They've just sold out. Oh, they've sold out. I just went on the website, but they were saying that we have one bottle of the Palo Cortado left. But there is good news because we've just been, as I said earlier, we've just been sampling our autumn releases, and we think that the Coalila Palo Cortado in that release is ready to go. So we will have some available, and it'll be 9-year-old again. So we'll have it available come September again. Just to leave you hanging. But
there you go, Simon. If you consistently pester Hugh over social media and the James Eadie guys over social media, I'm sure that they the bottle aside for you.
I'll get onto Rupert. Well, he's the right man to talk to about that sort of stuff. But yeah, so do have a look around because we sell to some wine shops as well, so who don't tend to concentrate on their whiskey sales, but they love the link between sort of cask finishing and sort of sherry and fortified wines to the wine, so it works quite well. So I remember someone was asking me because we did a Coalila 11-year-old in the Palo Cortado, and he came up to me at the Fringe last year, being like, "Where can I get the 11-year-old?" I was like, "Well, actually, fun enough, this sort of wine shop in Winchester said he had 2 left, and he phoned them up there and then, and he was like, well, I've got the last 2, so thanks for that." So do have a look on our website. I think if you go James Eadie and then there's whiskies, and you scroll to the bottom, there'll be a map of our UK stockists, and so you can have a look there.
Fantastic. Another question as well. In what way can we, the whiskey community, help support the industry at this time?
Oh God, that's very good. Because I think working. I mean, at the moment, so we've never really worked with the on-trade. It was something that we were looking to get into, but it's sort of just helping them sort of promote themselves. Giving them a chance to get back on their feet. So probably, if you're going to talk about it practically, maybe sort of delay payments, but I luckily don't deal with that. So if the accountant heard me say that, you're like, absolutely not. But it's sort of supporting them in the sense of sort of talking about them, and so on here, so always giving someone a shout out. One thing you could do is obviously do tastings with the shops as well. So if some shops are struggling, it's always good to do tastings with them. He's got the Benriac. Yeah, is that the Palo Cortado one? That's a very good one as well. So yeah, it's just sort of all together. No one could really, no one could get greedy at this point, and I don't think anyone has been. I think the wonderful thing in the whiskey industry is everyone knows what we're going through. I think Master of Malt did an amazing thing where they donated £1 from every order to the hospitality industry, which was amazing. But then you saw how much business they were doing. It was like, it's incredible. Every order you're there like, oh crikey, that is There's a lot of orders.
I was thinking, if you're donating £1 per order and you can donate £1 million, that means you've done 1 million orders.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Exactly.
maybe like a £5 for every order.
Yeah, so we'll do
But,
£5. But you know,
we do love Master.
yeah. And they're so good, and it's just really easy to use. So yeah, that I think you know, when it opens up again, it's sort of the community comes together. I think that's the most important thing. And then obviously thanks to all the lovers of whiskey out there as well to sort of keep us going.
We do, you know, we've had to crack open a lot of bottles and drink heavily in this time because we try
tough.
not to do that the other time.
Yeah.
And I guess my last question is there anything else you want to add?
Oh no, I think it's this has been great fun. It's the first one I've ever done. So it's been a good experience. So thank you very much for having me, and thanks for everyone listening and commenting. And you know, do follow us on Instagram because I mean, there's only 3 of us. So you know, before lockdown, we hadn't really done much on Instagram, but now we've had time to sort of get on it. So if you want to know our latest news, or if you want to ask us any questions directly, just do sort of ask us over social media now because we're a lot better at it now. So do follow us on Instagram. At the moment we're just doing sort of snippets of our tasting of the autumn release, which comes out in September, or the September release as we're calling that. So yeah, and thank you for people who, and especially the Whiskey Novice, who's just bought some Ben Riach. Thank you for all your support. And hopefully I'll see you at a festival or a tasting soon, which would be great. And when you're next over in the UK, Marcus, and we're allowed to meet up, then we'll grab a pint.
I was thinking definitely. I've got so many pints to grab with people. I am going to be drunk for about a month solid. It's going to be great.
Yeah,
I'm gonna love it.
that's the problem. You've got too many people to catch up on. But yeah, so it's been great. It's been really, really great.
No, but thank you for coming on, and thank you for what was honestly a fantastic story. I loved every bit of it. Like, you know, the James Eadie story, your story as well is awesome. The quiz as well.
The quiz, that was very clever. That was very good.
Thank you. Yeah,
it was very good.
Is not
John Hall, God, that name.
That word is not being used to describe my quizzes. Normally, it's another C word, and you describe me. Doesn't matter. But to everyone who has tuned in live, to Simon the Whiskey Novice, everyone else who's tuning in live, and to people who are watching this later,
MC Drama.
Thank you so much. Oh, MC Drama, yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks for helping out on that. How many people we had live on a Tuesday night?
We actually, so from Twitter, I think I think only Simon is still here from Twitter, but on Facebook we've got quite a few viewers as well. And thanks to all those guys. Facebook can't actually comment to this for some reason, which I really, but you know, we have people viewing from all over the world. So hopefully, you know, bear in mind what Hugh said. Buy yourself a couple of bottles of James Eadie. If you can find that Kalila Polo Corrado cask, buy it and send a picture of it to Simon and tell him it's for ransom.
Yeah.
Just for a laugh.
Double the price.
Oh yeah, double the price. Triple the price.
No, we don't
believe the money now. Otherwise, I'll drink it.
Yeah. But
I loved having you on, dude. So one last time, thanks to everyone who's watching. I've been Some Whiskey Bloke. I've been joined here by the fantastic Hugh Barron of James Eadie. Slash to all you. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. All the best. Speak soon. Look after yourself.
Soon.
Bye-bye.